starting about NXT. As I say, I'm going to be going quite deep into this, covering a lot of ground. It's not one simple thing, so there is a lot that's going to be going on here. A lot has changed in NXT over the last few days, but it wasn't just the last few days on which the planning started to make some changes. The new contract offers for Adam Cole and Pete Dunne seem to have provided catalysts for huge changes that have been pending for the past few weeks. While a lot has been reported about the impending NXT changes, not everything that's been reported is completely accurate. I'm going to try and sift some things out here that are somewhat questionable. Now, Dave Meltzer was kind enough to confirm my reports from Saturday live on these channels about the decision making in NXT being masterminded not by Triple H and Shawn Michaels, but instead being helmed by Bruce Pritchard, John Laurinaitis and Vince McMahon. It's really nice the day after I make some big reports to see so many of those things reported by Meltzer, by Fightful, by all of those. It was very reassuring in that regard. Triple H and Shawn Michaels genuinely have very little say in this one. Instead, the decisions have been made for them and they have to live with it. Rumours about Triple H and Shawn Michaels leaving or being removed, that said, are very far off the mark. There is no intention to remove a Triple H or a Shawn Michaels from the picture. They are still there, they just have a slightly different job role in order to clarify the expectations demanded of them. There was also some talk about getting rid of people over 30 and getting rid of people who've been on the indies for a while and smaller wrestlers. That, to my knowledge, is an extreme interpretation of what has been said. Essentially, they don't want to pick up indie darlings anymore, they want to focus more on homegrown talent. The WWE's plan is to procure a massive amount of new developmental talent on very low-cost contracts similar to those currently held by members of the NXT UK roster. For those who don't know, the NXT UK roster currently earn between £20,000 and £25,000 per year. So, less than your average civil service job. Quite a lot of people earn a hell of a lot more than them. But one of the excuses for this from WWE is that, we have free healthcare over here, so it's not like they need extra money. I don't agree, but we are where we are. These developmental talent will over time qualify as homegrown in-house talent. They essentially want to say, you can only see matches from this person here, much like Roman Reigns, Alexa Bliss, for a while Braun Strowman, you could only see their matches on WWE programming, and they believe that to be a firm selling point. The tryouts taking place in and around SummerSlam will have a huge effect on the future of the WWE, as will the tryouts for character-based talent that they're trying to find on TikTok. TikTok we've discussed before, and yes, it's still hilarious. Thank you very much for the host get the tables. Welcome to the show. So what's gone wrong with NXT, at least in the WWE's eyes, is actually very easy to spot. Firstly, as we've been talking about for a while now, the constant hoarding of talent has been a problem for a very long time, with the same faces getting the top spots week in and week out, and practically nobody else rotating in and out for more than a few weeks at a time. The original plan for NXT was to hoard talent because talent would be constantly moved up to the main roster. We've hit a logjam. The main rosters were full, which meant that people at the top in NXT stayed at the top and nobody on the mid lane was able to actually get to the top. Damian Priest, for example, never reached the top of NXT because there were so many people in his way, so when he was called up, he didn't have the NXT champion momentum behind him. The same can be said for a lot in the women's division, but for a while at least that's how NXT has always booked its women. This is one of the main reasons for the current releases. In addition though, the issues that Vince is having with Triple H continue. This is something that we've been talking about for a long time now, and it's only getting worse. There is a belief within the WWE that Triple H is failing to actually develop new talent as intended. NXT was formed with a single purpose: to prepare the next wave of Raw and SmackDown talent. Unfortunately, what's actually happening is that talent don't want to leave NXT, and when they do, they're not prepared for the differences when they reach Raw or SmackDown. In NXT, storytelling is usually a bit of an afterthought. The storylines are intentionally simple, and the crowds are more than happy to accept that. Characterization doesn't really happen in the same way as it does on Raw and SmackDown. A perfect example of this is Ty Dillinger, who obviously is no longer with the company. When he was called up to the main roster, his entire character was guy who says 10. He was able to talk his way into a United States Championship match because he said to Daniel Bryan, 10. 10. And Daniel Bryan said, yes. Which is ridiculous in a number of ways. The wrestling style is as we've all come to know it. High tempo, low selling, and lots of very late kickouts. The main roster, however, is very, very different. Wrestling matches tend to be much, much shorter, promos tend to be much, much longer. Wrestling is the least important thing about Raw and SmackDown, with larger-than-life characters being the most vital part of the sports entertainment style. The fact that Nikki Cross has had 3 character changes in the time that she's been on the main roster is so telling to me. Basically, the WWE, main roster / proper, are unhappy that Triple H is training wrestlers when what they actually want is sports entertainers. This is the change that is coming. No more wrestling, time for sports entertainers. The feud between Gargano and Ciampa is getting a lot of blame right now, but I completely disagree. NXT stopped being fit for purpose the second that it started being televised on the WWE network, because then it had to start being an entertaining program in its own right, so it found a way to do that with still developing talent. Finn Balor's call-up was heavily based around the Demon King because WWE Creative looked at the Demon King as the only real strong point of his character. Bayley spent years being defined entirely as Sasha's friend. Even all of her championship reigns until a certain point were defining her as, oh, well, Sasha kind of made it happen, until she finally turned heel and struck out confidently on her own. In fact, how many former NXT champions are actually anything even close to the same character on the main roster that they were in NXT? Look at the changes in Big E. The changes in Finn Balor. Look what they tried to do with people like Samoa Joe. One final thing I want to mention, and that's the fact that WWE executives have found to be the most infuriating. When Tommaso Ciampa spoke up and said he didn't want to leave NXT, Vince McMahon heard him. Vince McMahon took notice. People were not happy that the grass was apparently not greener on the main roster, and that essentially is when the planning began for a complete shake-up of NXT. Needless to say, NXT are very unlikely to be featured on this year's Survivor Series, and their Survivor Series win has basically been deleted. Eleanor says people are blaming the likes of Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano for refusing to go to the main roster as the reason why people couldn't move up the card, therefore getting released. Do you agree? I don't fully agree. I also don't fully agree. I do feel there's an element that there was a blockage at the top of NXT. The people at the top weren't moving on, so other people couldn't move up. But at the same time, that's a conscious choice that NXT made. That is a conscious choice. And people like Damian Priest were still able to come up. They just had to go round people to do so. I don't think it helped, certainly, but I don't think it's the reason people are getting released. Dan the Gemini, welcome, says seems like Triple H stopped trying to develop talent for the main roster and was more concerned developing his own brand. I believe that is exactly the accusations levied against him. Triple H was trying to make the most exciting product he possibly could. And as a result, the WWE in general were very unhappy with him for doing so. Mario says, Tom in WWE... Okay, you've already asked that one, fair enough. Get the Table says, only one who I can think of who hasn't changed is Kevin Owens. Fair, definitely a fair comment there. Kevin Owens as champion then was very clearly Kevin Owens as champion now. Well, Kevin Owens now. But I think as much as anything, Kevin Owens is so defined a champion. So defined a champ. Again, I'm saying champion. So defined a character that what would you change? He's already there and perfect. Moxie says, what, so no Roman, Joe and Bobby? No, unfortunately it doesn't sound like it will be happening, no. Bailey says, what becomes of the NXT veterans in this reboot? They mostly will get called up or let go. I have no news on this. I am concerned about the longevity of Tommaso Ciampa in NXT. I don't like it, but that's my opinion.